Hello everybody, welcome back. Welcome to the live stream. So today's all about remastering, fixing, adjusting, modifying, changing things up. And that is what my topic is for today. And of course it will be around the elf and the halfling, because that's what the title says. I have a poll. Feel free to take part in that poll if you want to. If you don't, that's fine too. I'm going to get into this pretty quickly because I want to keep this fairly short. I do not want to spend a long time on this topic. What I want to do is I want to get it done in about an hour and then let you go off and do what you need to do, and I go and do what I need to do. So so grab some food, some drink, make sure you're comfortable. You can see before you I have a lot of books and reference books to sort of guide me. Is it guide me or sort of guide me? We'll see how this goes. Anyway, let's start. Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about role-playing games. Now, the topic for today is remastering or fixing the elf and the halfling race, species, whatever you want to call it, okay? Fixing that particular game aspect of Dungeons & Dragons 5e. For me, whatever they've done with the elf is not terrible, and I wouldn't say that the halfling is terrible either. But it still hasn't captured what I'm trying to achieve. What I'm trying to achieve is something different. And so what I want to do is I want to actually go through, pull them apart, and make sure that the essential aspects of those races or species, whatever you want to call them, actually exist. I don't feel that they necessarily do. And we did pretty well last week. I think we actually did really well. I think captured a lot of the things that we needed to have. How's it going, China 81? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over my goals very quickly, okay, super fast. Once I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the sheet that I'm working on, and I'm going to work through that, and I will keep a basic idea on a basic eye on chat to make sure I get things sorted out. Shana 81, Fred can't stay around today. No problems. Okay, there's always the replay. Remember, I do not hide anything anymore. So what I'm going to do is go over my goals, and then we'll get straight into it. Okay, so my goals for today: fixing, remastering the races for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. The elf and the halfling is what we're doing. I want to keep the races nice and simple. I do not want rules that are complicated. I want them to be easy to adjudicate, easy for you to understand as a player and a game master, and really, it's more about me and my own group. Make sure the races and the species have features that are biological. A lot of the time I've seen things happening in the races or species for D&D, and what they get is not really a biological thing. It's heritage, it's background, it could be whatever your class is. It really doesn't seem to have any real bearing on it, so I don't think I want to have that sort of stuff in the actual race or species options. I'm not concerned with the races being balanced. I will do some balancing mechanically, but I don't think that mechanical balance for races and species is the only thing that's important, okay? I just want it to mechanically work the way it should. If the race or species has something that makes sense, it should have it. I really want to reduce dark vision. What has happened in dark vision in 5e is they've just made all the races that you play as good at seeing in the dark as all the monsters, which usually live in the dark all the time. Now, even if you have a race that has biology that would make sense they have dark vision, why is their dark vision as good as anything that lives in the dark most of the time? Sometimes this doesn't make sense. So I'm probably going to reduce that down to 30 feet or remove dark vision if I feel like that was the wrong decision. We did that with a dwarf last week. We give the dwarf infravision. They can see heat. They don't see in the dark, they see heat. Next, make sure the ability score adjustments allow for choice. I want to have there to be choice, but I also want it to fit the biology of that race or species as well. And we've done that a little bit. And I think it's a good way to approach it. You'll see what I mean in a second. Now, some people have asked me that, look, can I please explain my position on dark vision and the playable races? I'll come back to that topic, and I will actually cover it in a little bit of detail once I have got all my thoughts together so that I communicate everything all at once, because I do not want to answer that question in the comment section constantly, because people have an issue with my approach. And the same thing goes with a couple of other things. But I will actually do a dedicated video about why I don't like dark vision the way that it works in D&D 5e. I want to eliminate the short rest and the long rest mechanics from races. I think that long rest and short rest mechanics suggest that something is too strong, so why make it so strong? Give them something they can use all the time. It doesn't make sense that you have a race or species feature and you can only use it once in a day, or after you've had a short rest. Like it turns on and off. It doesn't make any sense. I don't like that sort of thing. I want to remove bonus actions and reactions from race features. I think they are a mistake. I've already had somebody say, why do you have an issue with reactions, but particularly bonus actions? And I've been working on some notes, and I will actually cover why I actually hate the bonus action in Dungeons & Dragons 5e. But I also dislike minor actions, swift actions, and other things. This really goes back to the idea of the economy of 3 actions, because 5e is a 3-action economy, really. And so is Pathfinder. And they have their roots in 3.5. Essentially those rule systems come from there. And I just think it's a mistake. And I have been formulating some notes to explain that, but I'm not doing that today. Ensure my home group actually likes what I put together. And I have to agree with those changes as well. I want them to like and agree with the changes. And I want to make the races and species make sense to me, because they haven't really made sense for a very long time, and I want to sort that out. So that's where my head is at, okay? There are a couple of topics we'll come back to, and we'll see how that works out. Anyway, that's done. I've done that bit. Now, let's get on to the process of actually doing the work. And for some strange reason, my computer is not letting me capture this. Why is it not letting me capture this? I should be in the elf section. We should be starting with the elf, because that's where I want it to be. But I don't have the elf section. Instead, I have nothing. Oh, there it is. It's just taken a bit of time. Okay, we're all good. Let's start with the elf, then I'll do the halfling. I feel like I can do this fairly quickly. So, we'll utilize as little of your time as possible, and mine. Drink of water. Okay, so this is what I have. This is basically everything out of the player's handbook. I have pulled most of it off the D&D Beyond website, because it was just easier to do it that way. Hello Derp, how are you doing? Derp is a patron, thank you for being here. These races seem okay to me, but I'm excited to see what changes you come up with. Okay, so I've had plenty of time to think about the elf, and one of the things about the elf, I'm getting rid of the hat, sorry people. One of the things about the elf that I did not like was the dark vision aspect. Now, you're probably familiar with how the elf was built in the past, so I'm going to go back through all of the different versions of the game and look at that. But I've also been doing things with the ability score improvements. And this is the first thing I want to get rid of. I want to get rid of this bit here, part of the elf. Your character has a variety of natural abilities, a result of thousands of years of elven refinement. Now, why is elven refinement... Elven evolution is probably more evolution. Let's put this evolution, okay? Semantics, I'm totally aware, people. It's semantics, okay? It's not a big deal. Right, so I'm going to take this section because I like the structure of how this works for me. So this is what I want to do, is I want to pull this section here and copy it, drop it in. So I'm using very similar mechanics for ability scores for the races. This is probably the only time I'm really worrying about it being sort of mechanically balanced. If you could even call that mechanical balance anyway. But I'm going to make some changes because I don't want it to be like the dwarf. The elf is not the dwarf, is it? You know, when it comes to an ability score increase, it shouldn't look like a dwarf. It should look different. So we will definitely do that. So I'm just going to drop this in here. A bit of cheating on my part just to speed things up. When determining your character's ability scores, increase one score by 2 and increase a different score by 1. Otherwise, you've got another option. increase 3 different ability scores by 1. Now, you've heard this, you've seen this in Tasha's, you're familiar with this, Wizards of the Coast has done this before. There's nothing new here. One of the ability score improvements must be, and I think this one should be dexterity. I think you either make one of your scores that's a 2 or a 1 dexterity. That doesn't mean you have to make your 2 dexterity. It could be a 1, but you have 2 different ways that you can spread out your scores. I think that's at the key. I think that is the elf. Does that make sense to you? I don't know. So what I want to do is I want to go back through and look at different versions of the game and what they did with dexterity, because I think at its core, the thing that stands out biologically for an elf is the fact that they are swift and quick, and dexterity is swift and quick, right? So let's ask you that question, and you tell me what you think. We've done this before. What ability score represents the elf best? That's my question to you. If there was any ability score that was supposed to sort of biologically represent the elf, which one would it be? Now, I'm not worrying about things like subclasses. I'm not going to bother trying to build a subclass for the elf. For me, I think it's completely unnecessary and just an excuse for Wizards of the Coast and other publishers to make stuff to convince you that you need to go and buy more of their crap. Okay? Although elves reach physical maturity at about the same age as humans, the elven understanding of adulthood goes beyond physical growth to encompass wide, worldly experience. So, okay, an elf typically claims adulthood and an adult name around the age of 100 and can live to 750 years old. Okay, all right, well, we'll see. We'll see if that's going to stay there the way that it is. Size. Elves range from 5 to 6 foot tall. Really, do they? Do they really? Can we not have a taller elf than that? 5 to 6. So it seems very sort of, all right. They have a slender build and they're tall. So let's just, I think we can push that a little bit higher, honestly. I think we make it a bit more. I'll make it 7 foot. You could have a 7 foot tall elf, could you not? Can they not be still, or is that going to be breaking the idea of the elf? Your size is medium. Okay. Slender build, tall. Right. So we'll make that. I don't think there's much I need to worry about this. Look, like I said, with the elf, there are a lot of things I don't really worry too much about. Speed, your base walking speed is 35 feet. Okay, so it's no more special than anything else. This is one of those things where I'm not entirely sure that I agree with this, okay, because I got the impression that an elf actually moves fairly quickly. And I could swear that here we go, fleet of foot. Now, it's one of those special abilities that the elf has, which basically means that their base speed is 35 feet. I'm inclined to take fleet of foot, okay, and just make fleet of foot their speed, and just make this 35 feet. I think that would probably work better for me. I think it would work better for the concept that my players have in terms of what the elf does. So, yeah, I'm very tempted to just drop that in. Now, dark vision I'll come back to. I have no problems with keen sense thematically. I just think it needs to be a little bit different to what it is. I think keen sense, as it stands, kind of doesn't quite make sense. And so I would like to refine that a little bit more and probably trim down the concept of the dark vision. Fey ancestry. You have advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. This has really been around forever. I'm pretty sure it has been around for a very long time. I'm mostly fine with that. The trance is all about semantics, making sure that the language for it doesn't get confusing. And I think that's been probably the hardest thing. Okay, all right, so let's start off with dealing with the ability score improvement. Let's have a look what they did in the past. So with 5e, usually when you come to an elf, it's It's you get dexterity. You get your dexterity boosted in some way. I'm just going to take my glasses off because it's going to be easier to see the words here. Right, so dexterity, yes, and then you get subclasses that increase. So high alpha's intelligence. I don't think we need to worry about that, frankly. Wisdom, dark alpha's charisma. All right, so that's 5e. Nice to know. Thank you very much. Let's go to another version of the game. Let's go to, what about Dungeons and Dragons 4e? What did 4e say about the elf? How are they structured this way? Elf is 40, page 40. Let's have a look at page 40. Here we go, elf. So they say ability score improvements should be +2 to dexterity, +2 to wisdom. So dexterity and wisdom are sort of big things. So do we feel like it's dexterity, or do we think that biologically an elf is going to be more wise than other creatures? I'm not really sold on that. You know, when it comes to biology, I tend to think that the most likely ability scores that are going to be biological are going to be strength, dexterity, and constitution. Things like wisdom, charisma, and intelligence, I feel to a large degree are not likely to be very biological, but more a product of just good luck, really, in terms of how you came about, or your upbringing. I feel like I'm more about your life experience. Anyway, keep going. Let's have a look at Monsters of the Multiverse. Not one of my favorite books here, but let's have a look and see what Monsters of the Multiverse does with an elf. Do they even have the elf here? They have the Eladrin. They don't even have the elf. So let's just forget that. Don't worry about that one. Put that aside. Okay, oh wait, what about Volo's Guide to Monsters? I think it's got some stuff in here. Pale Rider believes that the elf is represented by dexterity, which is why I think that's the thing that you just decide whether you want to put a 2 in it or a 1 in it. A 1 in dexterity, and that's it. Now, monstrous races. No, there's nothing in that one either, so we'll get rid of this one. Okay, next book. Player's Handbook for Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, version 3. Let's have a look. Why do you think some attributes are more impacted by biology than others? Well, I mean, the argument could go that, you know, your brain is your biology, and some people's, you know, some species' brains are going to be built differently. But I feel like wisdom is one of those things that is an experiential thing, you know, and something like charisma is, I mean, if you take the old version or old view of charisma was also your attractiveness. So I suppose you could say that's biological. Intelligence, I guess, again, you could say, depending on the type of brain that you have, it could be intelligence. But I feel that generally, a lot of the biology is going to be tied into the 3 that I just mentioned: strength, constitution, and dexterity. Not always. I think sometimes it would make sense, you know, that it would be different. But generally. Okay, let's have a look at the elf for 3.5. Here we go. Elves. It's page 15. 15. So what has the elf got here? Here we go. They get to increase their dexterity but decrease by 2 constitution. I'm not really fond of doing that idea. I think we'll just leave that alone. I think it's a bit too... it's imposing too much on the race or the species, so let's leave that alone. Base speed for an elf is 30 feet. Okay, so basically elves are just as fast as everybody else. They don't move any faster. Immune to magic, sleep effects, and a +2 race bonus against enchantment spells or effects. So to a large degree in 3.5, that kind of matches up if we have a look. So let's put a big, huge, it's not Fate Ancestry, it's this one, Fleet of Foot. Let's put a big, huge in yellow, or possibly in red. Let's put it in red. And then the Fate Ancestry, you have advantage against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. Does that cover everything that we really wanted to do, though, with the elf? I feel like the improvement in dexterity is warranted based off this, but we haven't even gone back to AD&D or basic D&D, which we will. So let's have a look here. Elf. Immune to magic sleep effects. Well, we've got that. You can't be put to sleep by magic. And a +2 racial bonus to enchantment spells or effects. Enchantment spells or effects. Now, enchantment, this just said charmed. You have advantage on saving throws against being charmed. Enchantment. I think this has been around a while too. I will check, see if I'm wrong. Enchantment, where is it? Spells. And magic can't put you to sleep. Okay, so that expands things a little bit. So I've expanded this just slightly. Okay, what else? Low light vision. Does anybody remember low light vision for the elf? I know I do in 3.5. Low light vision was a thing. Yep. You could change the constitution to it being a max at 16. Yes, I could, but I won't. I won't, because this is just 3.5. Once we go and have a look at some of the older versions of the game, I think it's going to start to become quite obvious that actually maybe that's not necessary. I'm not suggesting that 3.5 did everything right. Okay, low light vision. This is where my understanding of vision for an elf comes from. Low light vision. An elf can see twice as far as a human in starlight, moonlight, torchlight, and other similar conditions. Now, trying to break that down would just be a complete pain in the ass. Doesn't say that they can see in the dark, though, does it? No. She retains the ability to distinguish colour and detail under these conditions. Nowhere in 3.5 does the elf see in the dark. I would like to point that out. It says that they get, when it comes to their senses, that they get a bonus, +2 bonus to listening, searching, spotting. So obviously we want to do something around their ability to sense things. That makes sense. An automatic language. Okay, cool. And weapon proficiency. Weapon proficiency isn't, I've never considered that to be a biological aspect. Languages, I don't believe are biological either. Really, I think that's one of the things that breaks me out of it, but we'll run with it to a certain degree. I'm not going to say you have to have this language. I'm going to say you know a certain number of languages. So let's just assume that because of the brain and the way, because for one thing, I know a bit about the brain because I did psychology when I went to university, and so women, their brain is wired. Okay, it's wired up for language. And so it's quite possible that the elf, as a race or species, is wired up for language, meaning it would be easier for them to take on or learn more languages than somebody else. So there is a biological aspect to that, potentially, for them. So I'm not taking that away as a concept. So giving them an extra language, they get common and elven and a bonus language. So basically they get 3 languages. So whatever we do here with languages, it would kind of make sense to ensure that we do that. And that's what they've kind of got here already. What they've done is they've broken it down. I don't think we need to break it down. I don't think that's necessary. So that is 3.5, the elf. And then there's a restriction. There's things on multi-classing with elves and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And who really cares? Let's just get rid of that. I want to go back to 4E just for a second, because there are a couple of features here that we probably need to reiterate just to make sure that I've got this right. Okay, so what else does an elf get in 4E, the race? You get Fey ancestry. So basically, for the purposes, your origin is Fey. Well, that's okay. You get elven weapon proficiency, which again I think is ridiculous. What is knowing how to use a long sword or a long bow or a short bow have got to do with your biology? It's nothing. That's more about how you were brought up. Group awareness. You get a group awareness thing, which is more around perception. I think we leave that one alone. Wild step. You ignore difficult terrain when you shift. So I can move through terrain more easily than everybody else. I kind of like that idea. I actually think there's something to be said for that. Maybe they move 30 feet, but they aren't slowed down by difficult terrain that isn't magical. Elven accuracy, which I think is a terrible idea. And even if it pops up somewhere else, I think it's not going to happen for me. I know my group, we've already banned it from our table. I know that might not work for you, but that's working for me. That's way too good. Anyway, let's go to AD&D Second Edition for the elf. Let's have a look at what we have here for the elf. There's got to be something, right? We do have elves. 28. 28. What do they say about the elf? Not a lot so far. Elf, gnome. Okay, so they're shorter, slimmer. Okay, so apparently they're slightly shorter and slimmer than normal humans. So maybe making them 7 foot's a bad idea. Okay, I can go back and fix that. Features: fine tones, speak and melody. Okay, all right. What is there? Anything that's sort of mechanical? Or is it just flavour? Dancing, frolicking, natural beauty. They are not fond of ships. What else have we got here? Prefer to distance themselves from humans. There's almost nothing here that makes it sort of stand. So this book's useless to me. It's not really doing very much. Let's go to AD&D First Ed Edition. Let's have a look at what that has to say. And let's see what if the elf has got anything interesting in there. So elf, we do have elf. Let's try not to fall apart. 16. Elf, 16. What does 16 say? Okay, here we go. Here we go. Elf, 16. And what sort of things does the elf get in AD&D First Ed Edition? So they are resistant to being charm spells and sleep. So we've kind of got something like that going already. That's definitely here. There's a percentage thing going on here, which we're not going to do percentages. That's not going to happen. Next, they've got things about how restrictions on what level you can be as a fighter, a thief, a magic user, multi-classing. That's just forget all that sort of stuff. They've got something around the bow and using bows and bonuses on that. I think we ignore that. I do not believe that's biological. I think that's nonsense. All elven characters are able to speak the following languages in addition to their chosen alignment: Elvish, Gnome, Halfling, Goblin, Orcish, Gnoll, and the common tongue of mankind. So elven characters of above 15th intelligence are able to learn one additional language for every point of intelligence over 15. So really it's saying that mostly this, it's saying you're going to have about three languages. Okay. Next, here's the interesting thing. Here's about the vision. AD&D, the elf. What do you got here? So Turbo Wolf. What do you got here? Races seem very milquetoast. A halfling is almost no different than a half orc. I feel like they lost their flavour, my opinion. I tend to agree with you. Good to see you, Fred. Everyone's taken care of. Yes. Let's have a look at this. We finally got to AD&D First Ed Edition and the elf. What do they say about vision? Elves have the ability to see an infrared spectrum. Oh my. So we really should just port over infravision that the dwarf had. So they are able to see up to 60 feet in darkness. Okay, so dark vision and infravision is not the same thing. But what it's saying is they should be able to see in darkness and up to 60 feet. So I'm tempted with an elf, given that being the case, to give them dark vision, in this case, potentially, we'll see, and infravision. Why would I do that? It's a very good question. Let's keep going, though. This is just one version of the game, remember. Let's keep going. Noting varying degrees of heat radiation. So it does say that we're talking about heat vision. We're not really talking about dark vision. We're talking about heat vision. And that will certainly, to a certain degree, help you navigate or see creatures in the dark, because you'll be able to see their heat coming off their body or heat coming off an object or the environment. Okay, secret or concealed doors are difficult to hide from elves. Merely passing within 10 feet of the latter makes an elven character, and then it gives a percentage. So really the keen senses, so when it comes to seeing things, we need to make sure we're dealing with that in some way. I don't want to talk so much about secret doors. We make it more a bit broader. As has been shown previously, elf characters add a +1 bonus to their initial dexterity score. So again, dexterity comes up for the elf in AD&D First Ed edition. Likewise, as elves are not as sturdy as humans, they deduct 1 from their constitution score. I'm not fond of doing that. I'll just leave that alone. Okay, I'm deliberately ignoring it. If alone and not in metal armor, there is... What has that got to do? So this is around armor and wearing armor. I think that would be absolutely useless to us, so we'll leave that alone. Okay, so this makes me start to think that what we need to do is do something with dark vision, we need to do something with keen sense, we need to do something with infravision. But is it really dark vision? I don't believe it necessarily is. AD&D elves vet a +1 to dexterity and a -1 to con. Yes, I'm aware. So I'm pretty happy at this present time with just saying increase one of your score, your dexterity score. You've got to increase one of them. Whatever increase you're doing, one of them's got to be dexterity. Let's just leave the constitution thing alone. I just don't think it's necessary. Let's go to the Rules Cyclopedia. This is basic BECMI Dungeons and Dragons, essentially. So let's have a look and see what they've got in here. This will be interesting because remember, basic BECMI didn't really have races. They had classes. So the elf, when you play an elf, it's a class. The elf is on page 24. This is rather interesting if you ask me. Elf. Now, the great thing about the elf in this is they're very clear about how things work. Bingo. Here we go. This is it. The elf on page 25. It's 25, not 24. Yes, 24, 25. No, it is 25. Okay, this is what you get. These are the things that stand out for me. So they got a special resistance to dragon breath. I think we ignore that. I think that's that's going right back, absolutely. But let's leave that alone, okay? But they've got, in terms of their vision, they don't have dark vision. The elf says elves have infravision identical to that of dwarves. It's identical to dwarves. See the description of infravision and the explanation of the dwarf's special abilities. I don't think dark vision is what they're trying to do. So that's basic BECMI. I feel like that means dark vision's going and infravision's going back in there. Languages. In addition to the languages of all the characters, common and the alignment tongue, an elf can speak the language of elf, gnoll, hobgoblin, and orc races. Now we're being very, very specific here. I'm tempted to just give them a certain number of languages that they can choose to know and be done with it. Okay, that would be my approach to this. Next, detection. All elves can find secret and hidden doors better than other creatures. You must tell your DM. Okay, so it's clear to me that their ability to perceive is improved. They also have immunity to ghoul paralysis. All elves are naturally immune to the paralysis attacks of ghouls. Other types of paralysis, such as attacks from a carrion crawler or gelatinous cube, do affect them normally. So one of the things I would kind of consider doing is bringing back now I know it only shows up in one of the books, but one of the things that made the elf sort of stand out a little bit is this very, very specific thing around the ghoul, that ghouls cannot paralyze them. Spells. Elves can use magic. Now, why would that be biological? I think the problem is, and this is where I believe that the ghoul paralysis is a magical effect of some kind. And there's a lot of things that really don't affect elves because elves are magical in nature, even down to their biology. It's not like learned, it's part of their anatomy, right? I think that's part of what's going on here. Spells. Elves can use magic user spells just as magic users can. I don't want to do that. I feel like building in magic into them is going to be a huge mistake. So let's go back to this. I think we have established the basic core of what we need to do here. First off, elf. I'm going to leave it the way it is. The ability score improvement to dexterity, that's it. That's all we deal with. Next, size. I will leave it as 5 to 6 foot. There's not a huge variation. Okay, that's fine. Your walking base speed is 30 feet. I would still like to be able to add something to that as well, but we'll see. Dark vision has got to go. Because that's not dark vision we're looking for. What we really need here is the dwarven infravision. I wrote it up here. You can't see in the dark. You just see heat. That's really what's going on here. So let's go down here. Paste. Hopefully this will make sense. Let's bold that. Okay. Accustomed to life underground, your visual biology now. Accustomed to not life underground, but accustomed to accustomed to life, to a night life. A night life. That's the difference, I think, because elves aren't necessarily underground. Accustomed to a night life, your visual biology has genetically changed. You have superior vision in dark and dim conditions. You can see heat from a creature or heat source in dim light or in darkness within 60 feet. Okay? Now, I said you can't see in the dark, but what you can see or have dark vision. But what you can see in dim light and darkness is heat. And that may help you navigate or find things, but it won't necessarily get you past the doorway or past a rock. You could still walk into a rock potentially. So yes, well, I think that's how we'll structure it. I think that's the best way to go. That's my opinion anyway. What do we got here? The Dragon Breath thing was part of them getting some of the fighter abilities later on. I only came into... Oh, right, okay, higher levels. There was some law that explained that the ghoul immunity, but I can't remember it right now. Yeah, I was wondering about that myself. I do remember something. I think it might go back to Lord of the Rings, but I'm not entirely sure. It might even go further back than that for the elf, because the elf is, you know, it's not just Lord of the Rings, is it? Now, keen sense. Fleet of foot, this thing, I think we ditch it. I think it's unnecessary. We get rid of it. I'm going to take it away. This here, this feels really cumbersome. This whole section here on language, I'm jumping around a little bit. I apologize, people. Extra language, I'm getting rid of this. I want it to be simple, okay? Languages. You can speak, read, and write 3 languages of your choice. And Elvish is fluid with subtle intonations and intricate grammar. Elven literature is rich and varied, and their songs and poems are famous among other races. Many bards learn their language so that they can add Elvish bards to their repertoires. Okay, that's fine. So what is the thing that we need to put in here? If you decide to not pick common, that's your problem. But I'm going to leave it to you make that mistake. Next, if your character was brought up in an elven society, society you, Sati, you probably learned Elvish. Elvish. Okay. That's all I'm going to do. So you could have an elf that doesn't know Elvish. Why not? Does it have to be that one? I'm not sure that it is. I don't really feel like it. Unless you were brought up in a society where there was Elvish being taught to you, you may not know it. So let's just leave that open. It seems pretty obvious to me that they generally had 3 languages or more. Heck, we could even put in 4 languages, and I would be fine with that. Bugger it. Let's be generous. I would prefer my characters to talk to things rather than kill them anyway. There we go. Okay, next. I'm fine with Fey ancestry. The keen senses, I have a little bit of a problem with keen senses, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go bold. You have proficiency in the perception skill. Now, I'm fine with this as a concept because the idea is, I guess, to a large extent, that your senses are better than somebody else's. But almost everything around the elf is about their eyes and how well they see. How well they see in the day. They can see further than other people. They can detect hidden doors or secret doors, hidden things, all that sort of stuff. So what we're trying to do is duplicate that. So I understand where that is, okay? So what we want to do here is we want to make this, I think, slightly more interesting. I'm still tempted to do a few adjustments to here. I am tempted to make their base walking speed 30 feet and you aren't slowed down by difficult terrain, but is that biological? I feel like that aspect of it would be more something they would learn as being part of their society, so we'll leave that alone, okay? The infravision, that could be that's probably a biology thing. The keen senses, keen sight is probably what I want it to be. But keen senses just makes it tidier. So that means you bring in your sense of smell, your hearing as well. I guess that makes it just a bit more usable rather than a feature that's too specific. So it's sort of a trade-off. You have proficiency in perception and the perception skill. And I'm going to add advantage on perception, wisdom checks to see, hear, smell. Is their taste any better? I don't think so. Their touch, no. Smell things in the environment. Let's do that. Let's just give that the broad. That sort of covers the bases pretty well. Okay, what do we got here in the chat here? I related elf and longbow, shortbow, long sword, short sword to Japan, where the it sword was the katana. Possibly. Again, I don't feel like that's a biology thing. Do you know? I feel like that's more of a. It almost never comes up. Very rarely. I mean, most of the time, if you're playing a class, you probably already have access to the longbow or the short bow. So I just don't feel. I mean, if you were brought up in a society, then maybe that would be something a game master could incorporate. What do you got here, Derp? I thought when young elves trance, they see their lives. They might be a reason for every elf to know Elvish. Possibly. I guess there is an argument to be had that maybe part of what elves know is a collective consciousness. I wouldn't dispute that. There is a sort of a sense that they might have a collective consciousness in some way. But what I'm going to do is I'm not gonna go there because I'm not entirely sure about that one. This is my sort of first attempt at doing this. So let's go with trance. Let's make sure trance works the way it needs to work. So we'll go bold here. Elves don't need to sleep. Now, trance is one of those things. The only time the trance has ever come up is in Dungeons and Dragons 5e. But I like trance a lot, so I would like to keep it. And I know that the people who play at my table would have a very hard time losing trance as a feature for a race. Playing an elf. I've got a person, JP plays elves all the time. It's an ongoing joke with him, and he would not be able to cope. And there's nothing worse than watching a grown man just melt down and cry at your table. So, and that's probably what would happen. So instead, they meditate deeply, remaining semi-conscious for 4 hours a day. The common word for such meditation is trance. While meditating, you can dream after a fashion. Such dreams are actually mental exercises that have become reflex through years of practice. After resting this way, you gain the same benefit that a human does from 8 hours of sleep. So I'm just going to leave that. That's fine. I actually have no real problem with that at all. I'm actually happy for it to stay the way it is. But there's one thing I still feel like I need to do, and that is this ghoul paralysis thing. I don't know what it is about it. I still really like the idea of including it back into the race, because let's get real. If you look at an elf gets a lot of shit. Gets a lot of shit, man. It's got a whole lot of benefits to it. But I still want to add it back in. I still feel like it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to put it in. I know, people. I know. I'm a naughty person. That's right. That's right. I can do this. My stream, my channel. I'm going to be playing with this. I will soon know if I think it's a bad idea. So, let's just call it immunity. Ghoul paralysis. Paralysis. Now, I want to reword it. I don't want to word it. The wording for this is, in basic, it's all right, I guess, but it's maybe a little bit much. Okay. So all elves are naturally immune to the magical effect of ghoul paralysis. I think that's all I need to write. Paralysis. Clarify if elves can maintain concentration when trancing. Oh, do I need to? Okay, I'll add that in. So where are we? Elves can't cast spells, attack, or concentrate. Concentrate is it? Concentrate on a spell while in a trance. Okay. Good point, Dirt. I know that would come up for sure. Okay, now what else? Next. So attacks and effects that, so other types of attacks and effects that paralyze still affect the elf. Okay, I think that's got it. I think that's our effect, still effect. Yes, that's better. Ghoul paralysis, done. Okay. Because for me, the ghoul paralysis is a magical effect. And it's clear to me that the elf has a lot of biology tied into being able to resist a lot of magical stuff. There's no way I want to give them magic resistance, but things like, you know, enchantment spells, being charmed, and magic can't put them to sleep. I'm fine with them having advantage on that. That's all good. Okay. The ghoul paralysis is just a little bit of extra. It's such a very niche situation. It's not going to come up very often. Okay. All right. There's our elf. I'm pretty happy with the elf as it is now. Let's deal with our next problem. Halfling. Halfling is a weird one. Apparently, they also are a dexterity sort of race. I don't know why apparently they are, but I suppose because they're small and nimble. Your halfling character has a number of traits in common with all halflings. Okay, so be it. We got it. Understand. All right, so let's go here bold. I'm going to get rid of this bit here. And I'm just going to go up here, and I'm probably just going to just transfer the elf mechanics for it straight over to the halfling. I don't know that it's any different, really. Should it really be any different? I don't know that it does. So I'm going to just drop that there. That was easy. We'll go over this and see if it sort of fits. I'm going to look back at some of the other rule systems. I know I'm running long. I'm a bit slow. Age. The halfling reaches adulthood at the age of 20 and generally lives into the middle of his or her second century. So, okay, so that's a rough guide. I'm fine with that. Not really too worried about it. Your size. Halflings average about 3 foot tall and weigh about 40 pounds. So there's not an awful lot going on here. When we talk about a halfling, like, are we just 3 foot tall? Can we be 2 foot tall? What about, let's just give us a range. I think we'll go with, let's get rid of this average thing. And so halflings, where is the, we'll use similar wording. Range from, okay, let's just do this. Copy, and I'll just drop this in and use the same wording to a certain degree. Paste. Range from, let's just say 2 foot tall to, not over 6 foot, but to 4 foot tall And are we really worrying about the weight of our character? I don't know that we need to worry about the weight of our character. I think we can probably just ditch that. 40 pounds size. Okay. Your size is small. So we know that you're 2 foot to 4 foot, you're going to be small. Okay, that's fine. I'm not too worried about that one either. That's all good. Let's just leave that as is. Because you're so small, you're going to be walking a lot slower. Now, when we did the dwarf, when I was doing the dwarf, I actually left this the same for the dwarf, but I did something with the dwarf in terms of their speed, and that is, and I did highlight it. They could wear heavy armor and be heavily encumbered, but they're not slowed down. And that was because they generally were going to be a little bit slower, a bit more stockier, their legs a little bit shorter. I think the idea is a halfling is supposed to biologically have slightly shorter legs, not quite as long, and because they're not quite so tall, they move a bit slower. I'm fine with this. Let's just leave it as it is. I know Wizards of the Coast has been very keen on the idea that, frankly, let's just say that everybody moves the same speed, 30 feet. And it just doesn't feel very different. They feel pretty much the same. What do you got here? Pale Rider. If they're raising an elven community, I agree with the bonus using some type of weapon because they have, yeah, exactly. But only if they're part of an elven community. If they are part of an elven community, then the game master and the players can sort that out themselves. Willow didn't look too dexterous, just saying. That's very true. We're going to go back to this in the Halfling. He did not look very dexterous at all. I'm kind of wondering why we needed to have that there. The weight matters for halflings and dwarf tossing. That's just cruelty. It's funny, and yes, I have been part of that. Okay, lucky. Lucky, I want to highlight. When you roll a 1 on a 20-sided dice roll for an attack roll, ability check, or a saving throw, you can re-roll the die and must use the new roll. I've never been too sure that I thought this made sense. Now, the idea being behind the halfling, now this is not a biology thing. This is because the goddess god who created halflings always imbues halflings with this uncanny luck. So it's intrinsically built into them because of how the goddess made them. And so that's a very odd mechanic. I totally get it. But I'm still going to put a yellow mark on it. I'm going to come back to it and see what they've done in the past. Brave, you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Again, I'm not too sure about that one. Halfling nimbleness. You can move through. Now, I think the halfling is... You've got to remember the halfling is not a dwarf. A halfling is more of a hobbit. So hobbits can move quite quickly. If you look at Lord of the Rings, the movie, how they're sort of described, they're very quiet, stealthy, they move very quickly, and so that's sort of that's trying to duplicate. The frightened thing, I'm not too sure about. Halfling nimbleness. You can move through the space of any creature that is a size larger than yourselves. I've never been terribly fond of that feature myself, but we won't go there just yet. We'll keep going. Naturally stealthy. I'm kind of fine with this. You can attempt to hide even when you are obscured only by a creature that is at least one size larger than you. It's an amusing mechanic in that you can hide behind a human who is medium size. It is kind of ridiculous, but it's very funny. So, and then languages. Again, I think with the languages, I am prone to the idea, let's just give you 2 languages, and you could make one of those languages halfling if you wanted to. Okay, you can speak, read, and write 2 languages of your choice. So let's put that in. And then I'm going to add in another thing, because the halfling's language isn't secret, but halflings are loath to share it with others. They write very little, so they don't have a rich body of literature. The oral tradition, however, is very strong. Almost all halflings speak common to converse with the people in whose lands they dwell or through which they are travelling. Now, travelling. Let's just go there. Okay, now let's take another, because I've been doing this a lot with all of everything. If they're brought up in a halfling society, then they would probably know that language. But maybe they don't. Maybe they don't even know common. This is just a suggestion, really. I don't really care what 2 languages you select. Why would we want to worry about that? If your character was brought up in a halfling community, you probably learned halfling. Okay. That's all I want to say, because honestly, I don't think it really matters, but we'll come back to this. All right, now that we've done this, and I've made a few changes. Let's look at some of the older versions of Dungeons and Dragons. What do they say about halflings? I'm sure they say something, right? I'm going to probably be fairly quick with this, people, so don't freak out. We'll go through this really quickly. I'm just going to grab some water because my cup is out. I want to go through 4th Ed edition, 3.5, AD&D, basic, BECME. I want to see what they've got there from the past. I want to see if really what we're trying to do is actually matching up. So, yeah, let's do this. By the way, I think Willow is not really a halfling. I feel like Willow is a something else. I wouldn't say a halfling. It doesn't feel like a hobbit. Kind of looks like a hobbit, but so does a dwarf. Anyway, let's go to the player's handbook and halflings. Take my glasses off because I won't be able to see the text otherwise. And what does it say about the halfling? Oh, we got here. Here we go. 44, page 44, Dungeons and Dragons 4E. Don't worry, people. We're not bringing back 4E. Okay? 4E. All right. Halfling. So it says here that they range in height from 3 feet to 4 feet, and they've been very specific. I don't know that we really, who gives a toss. They've got a range of weight. Again, I don't think that matters. +2 to dexterity. So dexterity seems to be a thing. And then charisma. I don't know why charisma. I'm not really too sure. Maybe it should be dexterity or charisma. Now, I could live with that. Small, move about 30 feet, which is 6 squares. Normal vision, so they don't have any special vision. There's no dark vision with a halfling. And thank God, if you have a look, halfling does not have anything like that. Okay, cool. Languages, common and a choice of one other. So they get 2 languages in 4E, okay. They've got something about skill bonuses increases, which I think is ridiculous. Again, I've said I don't think that increasing skills makes any sense biologically. Maybe the ability score improvements, yes, I can see that, but skills, no. That's a learned thing. Bold. You gain a +5 racial bonus to saving throws against fear. Okay, so we've got that already in the 5e thing built in. Nimble reaction. You gain a +2 racial bonus to armor class against opportunity attacks. It's really specific. I don't know why we would bother with it. Second chance. You can use second chance as an encounter power. Now, second chance basically works this way. When an attack hits you, force an enemy to roll the attack again. So in other words, it's a re-roll. It's the luck thing, really. That's it. That's okay. All right. What about Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 in our halfling? What does it say for that one? What in its essence do we get from the halfling? Do we have a halfling? Yes, we do. Number 19, page 19, 3.5. What does it say about a halfling? That's a half orc. What a halfling. Here we go. Apparently, we get a -2 to strength, which we're not going to do. A +2 to dexterity. So dexterity does seem to be the thing that keeps coming up. With small size, there's a bunch of bonuses for being small size in Dungeons and Dragons 5e, 3.5. Sorry, not 5e, 3.5. Things around size bonus to armor class, attack rolls, bonuses to hide checks, all sorts of things. We've already got a stealth sort of mechanic here. And lucky, I feel like lucky does most of all of that already. And then we've got the brave thing already, and we've got the stealth, and we've got nimbleness, which I suppose, I'm not hugely fond of halfling nimbleness, but anyway. Keep going. Next, base speed is 20 feet, so they actually made them slower. In 3.5, they could only move 20 feet, not 25 feet. We're not going to do that. I don't think that's a good idea. Racial bonus to climbing, jumping, and moving silently. So it's really about hiding. We've got that there in the naturally stealthy thing. So that's fine. We'll leave it alone. We've got a +2 morale bonus for fear. Okay. We've got a +1 bonus to attack rolls when with thrown weapons and slings. Again, I don't think weapon bonuses make any sense biologically for a race or a species. So I'm not going to do that. Okay. A +2 racial bonus on listening checks. So apparently they've got keen ears. Does our halfling have keen hearing? I don't see it. Do we want to include keen hearing? Is it doing too much? I don't know. Does it come up again? I guess that's the question. If this was to come up again in another version of D&D, maybe we'd consider it. Automatic languages, common and halfling, bonus languages. So they get 3 languages in this version of the game. Not 2, but 3. 3 languages, apparently. I'm not against them having 3 languages, honestly. I would be fine with them having 3 languages. Okay, let's go to AD&D. This book here, which has proven to be most completely useless to us, but we'll try. Okay, halflings. What are we gonna find? Halfling. Here we go. 31, page 31. AD&D, second edition. 31. Here we go. Halfling. Here we go. So they are small. Okay, we knew that. Curly tops. Okay, fine. We got that. This is mostly fluff. Good humor. Lively. There's no real biological anything going on here with them whatsoever. Oh, here we go. Halflings have a penalty of -2 to their initially generated strength score, and a +1 to dexterity. So dexterity comes up again. They want to put a penalty on strength, which I'm not going to do. Next, similar. Halflings with any stoutish blood can note passages and the slope and the angle. Again, I feel like, I don't know that that's necessary at all. Next, depending on their lineage, certain halfling characters have infravision. So apparently in this version of the game, halflings had infravision, so they could see heat. Any halfling character has a 15% chance to have normal infravision. My God, that is such a... it's almost not going to happen. And then it's only slightly better if there is some other lineage of halfling. So I think infravision in this version of the game looks almost like it's a waste of our time. It's not like it's a high percentage, so why would we do it? A halfling can gain a bonus to surprising opponents. Why would that be? If they're not wearing armor. So it's really about them being able to be a bit more stealthy, I guess. There's a little bit here around penalties. There's a lot of penalties here, in fact. Next, halflings. Resistance to poison of all sorts. Now, why is this? Why do they have this? I'm not too sure. All halfling characters have high resistance to magical spells. Really? Do they? Okay. Well, I haven't seen that before. And then the rest of it is mostly nothing burgers. So let's go to AD&D First Ed Edition. Eyesight that is better than normal, and dexterity would have a I agree. So we can do something with vision. Okay, we can do something with hearing potentially too. But let's just go to here, and let's go to halfling. Halfling is not really a race; it's more of a class now. But let's see. No, it is a race in this case, isn't it? This First Ed Edition. That's basic Begme we're talking about. 17. Let's go to page 17. What does page 17 say about these halflings? Halfling. Here we go. Wonderful. Halflings must accept a penalty of -1 for their initial generation of strength and a +1 to dexterity. So it seems to me that dexterity should have some sort of benefit. Whether you make it a 2 or a 1, I couldn't care less. If alone or well in advance, 90 something feet or more, a party does if they're not wearing armor, they move silently. So basically we've got the naturally stealthy thing going on here. So that's come up again. That's great. Cool. We've got that nailed. We've got the stout blood business, which is an angle thing, which is just, I don't know, it's never going to come up. Certain halfling characters have infravision, but those with mixed blood are assumed to have infravision with functions, a very short version of infravision. So their infravision is not necessarily 60 feet. It could be 30 feet or it could be 60 feet in this version of the game. All halfling characters are able to speak the following languages, in addition to mankind's common tongue and the alignment language. So that's 2 languages: Dwarven, Elvish, Gnomish, Goblin, Halfling, and Orcish. So they get quite a few languages. I'm tempted to push their languages to 3. Okay, as halflings also have a similar resistance to poison of all sorts, They gain constitution bonus identical. So this is around saving throws against poison. So that's kind of like the dwarf's resistance. It feels very, very similar to what a dwarf gets. I'm not completely convinced. All halfling characters have high resistance to magic. Well, do they really? Okay, so they've mentioned this. Let's go to the Rules Cyclopedia. Basic Bet Me Dungeons and Dragons. What do they say here? Let's go here and have a look. Remember, the halfling in this version of the game is not a race, it's actually a class. So, halfling, 26. Thank God I'm getting close to the end of this. Okay, 26. Here we go. What do you get if you are a halfling? What are some of the things that a halfling has? Well, and that would be biological in nature. Special defenses, resistance to both magical and breath weapons. I don't know about this one. Experience points, saving throws. There's not an awful lot there that makes any kind of sense whatsoever. There's not a lot actually at all. Halflings. You've got talking about weapons that you would have, but that's more of a class aspect of it. Special abilities, fighting maneuvers, combat bonuses. I don't know that the halfling in this case is really going to help us. Woodland abilities. So they got woodland abilities. Do they? Do they really have woodland abilities? Okay. There's not really much there, so I think we can ditch that idea. What I would like to do though is I think the idea of giving them infravision is the wrong idea. I do feel like the lucky idea, the lucky that they get for the halfling, is one of probably the most standout features that this species or race has. But it's really never shown up until just recently. But I'm still going to keep it. Okay? I'm fine with keeping it. I don't have a problem with it at all. Brave. There are some aspects of this that sort of suggest that they're brave, having advantage, It almost feels like they've tried to pull over the Kenda law to the halfling, because I don't remember hobbits necessarily being very brave. Are they really that brave? But we'll leave it. I don't have an issue with it. Halfling nimbleness, being able to move through the space of a creature that is a size larger than you. Frankly, I think that is nonsense. They're small, but why is it that particular small creature can do it and other small creatures can't? So I'm just going to ditch that. Okay. Naturally stealthy. I actually have no problem with this. Okay, so naturally stealthy. But I don't like this aspect of it. And the way that it's written, I'm not fond of it. So I'm going to give them 3 languages. 3 languages. Let's just say their brain is really good at picking up languages. It seems to me like that was the intent anyway. And then naturally stealthy. So I'm not fond of the idea. It always seems stupid that you could have a halfling using naturally stealthy hide behind another creature that is just one size larger than them. It always seemed ridiculous. Completely stupid. So you're telling me just because they're small size, you can't see them? No, I'm not going to do that. Instead, let's just do this. Let's get rid of this and just say you have advantage. Since apparently halflings are very dexterous biologically, I don't know that necessarily there seems to be a lot going on with the stealth, but is that a biological thing? I think it's probably because they don't have to wear shoes. Halflings could just go barefoot. Barefoot means you can always move more quietly. And I think the idea is that the halfling has really hard soles on their feet. That's biological. And they have hair on their feet to keep their feet warm. So they don't need to wear shoes. They would go barefoot. They could move across a surface much better than somebody else wearing shoes. And I think that's where the idea of the naturally stealthy comes from. You tell me if I'm on the wrong track here, but I think that's kind of what was going on here. You have advantage Okay, now actually, I don't even know if I wanted to say advantage. Let's seriously, let's just stop mucking around with this and let's do this. I want to take this aspect here, rewrite it, and I want to do that for naturally stealthy. That's what I want to do. Okay, and then I go paste. You have proficiency in the stealth skill, and advantage on stealth, dexterity checks. Checks to move silently. And hide in cover. Okay. So halflings have hard soles on their feet, covered in thick hair, which means they don't need to wear shoes. Soles. Now that's not soles. That's wrong. Soles have hard soles on their feet, and on their feet have hard soles and their and their feet are covered in thick hair, which means they don't need to wear shoes. They're pulled from the kender. So yeah, I very much think that the brave thing is pulled from the kender. So it's a mix of that. Yeah, I'm still, I'm not terribly against it. I mean, frightened comes up occasionally. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Biologically, is it a biological thing? I feel like it's almost a bravery thing. Bravery never really came up as a halfling trait or feature. Now that I think about it, I am tempted just to remove the brave one. I don't think the brave one needs to be there. I actually think something else needs to be there. And I think it needs to be around their senses, their sight, their ability to see. And I think that's where we want to aim rather than somewhere else. So anyway, let's just keep going here. I'm fine with all of that for now. I'm almost done to death. But I'm tempted to take... Yeah, I think we should take the brave out. I don't think there's any indication in early halflings in basic BECME that, or even AD&D, that halflings are any more brave, and that is it a biological thing? I don't really think that it is a biological thing. I can understand the naturally stealthy. I can understand kind of the languages and how your brain's built, and your ability to pick up languages. I can understand that. Your speed, I can understand that. Let's go here. 26 again. Let's have a look at 26 and just make sure I'm not taking something that kind of makes sense for them. But they do feel like they are a mix of, yeah. When you look at the early pictures, it looks like a hobbit. It really does. Combat maneuvers. Yeah, they've tried to impose the kender aspect, haven't they? Hiding's definitely a factor, so we need to have that there. And I think making it, having proficiency in stealth or dexterity checks and advantage, like I just want to make them really good at it. That makes sense. They'd be really good at it. Let's just do that. High experience levels, light, bright, brandish, shadows. Okay, so, yeah, there's nothing there. I actually think we just take it out. Hobbits were brave. I suppose that's true. And in the book, he said that too, didn't he? I'm pretty sure in the book, not just the movie. I'm developing a fight or flight. Carell, how are you doing? 1E. Certain halfling characters have infravision, which functions up to 30 feet, while those of pure stockish blood are able to see heat radiation up to 60 feet. Yeah, but there was also a percentage thing going on here, and that's one of the things I have an issue with. Is I don't know that infravision is the thing to give them. I'm aware of all of that. Yep, I did just read all that out. Okay, so let's have a look at... Now, this book didn't do me any good, if I remember right. When I looked at AD&D 2nd edition, it was kind of like hopeless. 31. Let's check it again. They did have some features here, didn't they? And we're looking at the brave. Is there any sort of reoccurring thing that suggests that they actually are brave? Because really it's the lore side of things, and halflings are basically the Hobbit that's been copied. Well, there's nothing in there. I could always take it out. I don't have to keep it. I mean, I could decide to change my mind at some point. This is like a first draft, is it not? I believe it is. 17. AD&D first edition, 17 again. Let's have a look. Is there anything that I missed? I have been paying attention. There's not a lot that suggests that they are like brave. It really more goes back to the lore, and of course the lore is definitely based off them. Going to think about this a little bit more. I'm not too sure. Okay. One more time. I don't want to give every race infravision. That's the last thing I really want to do, is give them every race having infravision. Would just be a pain in the ass. It's just like dark vision then. 24. Like, okay, no, this one's got that thing again. 26. Weapons, armor, special abilities, short duration, halfling bonuses, specials, shadows, moving silently, percentage, that's hiding, endure, brandishing, magical light, actually, light, possible to hide, outdoors, difficult to spot. No, I don't think they should have anything. I think their eyesight is about as standard as it gets. I think we just leave that alone. I think we don't put anything. We don't give them infravision. We don't give them special sight. But they've got lucky. They've got brave. They've got naturally stealthy. I think that's actually enough. I think as a race and an extra language, I think that's perfectly fine as it is. I don't think it needs any adjustment. So I'm not going to fiddle with it anymore. Because I'm not trying to reproduce what one particular version of D&D did. It's like, have I captured the essence of the halfling? And I think that is the essence of the halfling. I think that's what we're looking at. Stealthy, the lucky aspect, and the brave I'm not too sure about, not completely sold on. There's not a lot going on here. I wouldn't say that any of this is overpowered and ridiculous. It doesn't make the race or species a go-to every single time. I think it's fine as it is. So yes. So we've done the elf. We did a few changes to the elf. The elf is a little bit different to what it was before. The elf has got a lot of stuff around their perception, and there's a bit of magic resistancy stuff, some very specific, some not so much. I would say the elf has got more features than most things. The elf has certainly got a way more than, say, the halfling. But then if we look at the dwarf, we didn't give the dwarf a huge amount of things either. Well, maybe that we did. We gave him about 4 different things. Have we actually, is the halfling really lost out? No, 3. There's about three things there. I can think about it. I'll think about it. We're not doing a dire hobbit. Not a chance. Not a chance. No dire hobbits. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sold on the idea of infravision. Infravision didn't really come in until AD&D, and yeah, I don't think it's a great idea. I think we leave it alone. It's just trying to make everybody's vision super good, and I don't think that the halfling is the way to go. I'm fine with giving the elf similar to the dwarf. That's fine. All good. Fine with that. Okay. I am done with for today. In terms of my fiddling around, I was supposed to only take an hour. I do apologise that I took so long. I think if anything, I took way too long on the elf, and I probably fiddled around way more than I needed to. I'm going to come back to this. I want to keep going with the races or species rather than go back to the classes. I want to do the classes, but I want to hold off until the weather starts to drop in temperature, because sitting in my office for 4 or 5 hours is really hard. So I'm going to come back next Friday. I'm going to talk about the gnome. I'm going to do the gnome. I'll rebuild the gnome, okay, because I feel like the gnome is one of those things that people really like. I'm going to rebuild the dragonborn, but I'm not going to call it the dragonborn. I'm going to call it something else. Yes, that's right. I'm going to rebuild the dragonborn and call it something else. So those are the 2 that I thought I would do next week. And maybe it'll change. But after that, we're going to do the orc, because I feel like an orc is something that people like to play. The goblin, I feel like goblin would be something people want to play. There is the warforged, but I don't want to call it the warforged. I want to call it something else. It's basically a robot. You know it is. I know it is. The Thicreen, I just want it to be an insectoid race. So I'm just going to change the name of that as well. And the plasmoid is just basically playing an ooze, and I'm going to change that as well. I put in the turtle, which I'm just going to call a turtle. I don't even think I'm going to call it a turtle. And I'm probably going to add the fairy. I'm not suggesting that all of these should be things that you should be able to play in every single world. But next week, as I said, I'm going to do the dragonborn, and I'm going to do the gnome, because those are the ones that I would like to sort of fiddle around with and see what happens. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Anyway, let's end this poll and see what we have here. Oops, I spelt elf wrong. Do you think the elf race for Dungeons & Dragons needs fixing? Yes, 37%. No, 37%. Undecided, 25% out of 16 votes. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say the elf needed that many changes, honestly. Did we change that much? I don't think we changed very much at all. I think we changed very little. And with the halfling, hobbit, I don't think we changed that much with that either, really. A little bit of refinement, maybe adjust things a little bit, broaden things out a little bit. In some cases, take things away. But generally, yeah, I don't think there was a lot of changes at all. Anyway, I'm done for today. I'm tired. I need to go and make some food, and I'm sure you do too. So, look, thank you for being here. I want to thank my patrons who support me so I can keep running this channel. It really makes a big difference, you supporting me. For those of you who are part of Patreon, I will be putting up for the paid part of that is. I will hopefully put up a village adventure at the end of today, and I will also put up the monster communication methods that we built. There's a table that I'll put that up. For those of you who just want my Patreon for free, I'll be putting up a free Star Wars adventure. If you want to download it, you can. Okay. Anyway, that's hopefully stuff I will get done. I want to thank you for watching and listening. For those of you who were taking part in the chat, thank you very much. Pale Rider, thank you for being here. Cal-Rel, I do appreciate it. We had Derp here, who is a patron. Thank you for being here. Mike, who put in his 2 cents. Turbo Wolf, who offered some ideas, and Shiner81. Really do appreciate you putting in your 2 cents and commenting. It makes it interesting for me. Like I said, I don't always take everybody's ideas, but I do think about them. They do help me consider stuff. And anyway, wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.